Welcome to Flight Level Zero. I'm Joe Peebles, your host. Welcome to the show. If you are a veteran and you are in need of help, support, or just need somebody to talk to, please reach out to the Veterans Crisis Line, dial 988 and press 1. Everything's confidential. They just want to get you help. They don't pay me $1, just to let you know. I don't take advertisement from them or anything like that. That's just something that's near and dear to my heart. If you are a veteran, you're out there, you need it, please give them a call. What you're going through is a unique situation that only service members and their families can understand. So please reach out to the people who get it. Flight Level Zero is brought to you by our sponsor, JP Aerotechnics. JP Aero is an AOG mobile maintenance provider for Part 135 and Part 91 business jet operators. They provide quick and reliable service to the southeastern USA. If you have a downed aircraft, MELs, or just need somebody to do service checks regularly, they can support you. Please call 833-807-3131 or just email aog@jpaerotechnics.com. Guys, Flight Level Zero, this is us here. What do we talk about? We talk to aviation industry professionals about their journey. We talk about self-development and how to become a dominating factor in your life and in industry. We also talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly parts of life and the tools that can help you overcome those hard times that will inevitably come. We got 3 types of shows here. We have full-length episodes where I bring on a guest and we talk about their story. We have solo, and that's where it's just me, and I'm on here for about 10 or 15 minutes talking about a few things that I've learned over the past few years or whatever's on my mind for the day. And we also have current events where we talk about what's going on and what's trending in the industry. If you like the show, if it makes you think, if it makes you smile, if you think we did a good job, please like and share it. Leave a review on whatever platform you listen to. This helps us grow our brand and bring people to our show. So thank you very much for listening. Thanks for liking and subscribing. All right. Now that we're done talking business, let's get down to business. Today, as I said, we are doing a full-length episode. Our guest today is a dedicated husband, father, and an accomplished aviation professional with a true passion for travel, connecting people, and embracing new adventures. As a co-founder and president of Gabriel Travel Company, he is at the helm of Concierge Travel Services firm that offers a full suite of travel solutions from flight crew and executive travel to leisure travel and private jet charters. With an impressive aviation background, John is typed on the G650, G550, G5, Falcon 2000, 900 Easy, citations, and the PC-12 Pilatus aircraft. His expertise spans SMS, safety management, scheduling, and international operations, making him a sought-after leader in the aviation industry. In addition to his work with the Gabriel Travel Company, John is also the co-founder of Direct2 LLC, an aviation consulting company specializing in safety documentation and pilot career development. His mission is to elevate the aviation safety and mentor the next generation of aviators. John's journey is one of adventure, leadership, and excellence, and we can't wait to dive into his story. Welcome, John.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Busy as usual, but that's the life that I chose.
Yeah, that is. So let's dive right into it, man. Where are you from? How'd you grow up?
Yeah, so I live in Sandy Hook, Connecticut. I grew up in Connecticut, left here for college up in New Hampshire. So I've been a Northeast guy my whole life. But hey, the Four Seasons and all that New England has to bring just kept me here. So and it's a great place to be an aviation professional too. Tons of airports, tons of opportunity around here. So haven't really left, like I said, but it's a great spot.
For sure. So what got you interested in aviation?
Yeah, so growing up, my dad actually had a passion for flying. Got his private pilot's license and just stopped there, but did it for fun while he could. I'm one of 3 kids. I'm the oldest of 3. I have 2 younger brothers. So that kind of petered out as my younger brothers, got older, and the pain point of trying to pay for flying kind of petered out. But I was able to get the taste of flight early and just stuck with it. When they asked the $1 million question in high school, hey, what do you want to do for a living? I said, hey, why not try to be a pilot?
Interesting. Did your brothers kind of follow you into this passion, or?
No, I'm the only one in aviation. My other two brothers are, I'll call it on the business end of things. One's in business development, and the other one is in sourcing and logistics for a food service company. So 2, other realms other than aviation.
Yeah. So you're in high school. you're like, I want to be a pilot. Becoming a pilot as a high schooler is kind of tough. It's like you were saying, it's expensive. So let's talk about that journey. How did you kind of like fall into it? How did you figure that out?
Yeah, so of course, aging myself a little bit, but that's all right. Growing up watching Top Gun, all those aviation movies, even traveling to Disney World as a family, I was more excited about the plane ride rather than, getting to Disney World. So again, in high school, made that decision. So all right, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go to college? I decided, well, let's make this the journey. So I decided on a few different schools. I picked out Ohio State. I picked out Daniel Webster College, which is where I chose, and Embry-Riddle. Got into all three. Decided again, I'm a New England guy. Daniel Webster was up in Nashua, New Hampshire. Stay close, do what I know, and start training from the ground up there. Yes, it's very expensive, still paying off student loans, but if anything, I actually look at the silver lining with that, which is it's kind of forced me to do more than just be a one job kind of show and to have that entrepreneurial kind of spirit to keep going and pay off that debt. In any case, my college was a great experience. It was a very robust program. It was all Part 141, which was very structured flight school. Learned a lot, met a lot of great people, and actually, we can get into it later on, but that really actually started the fire of the whole safety aspect of aviation. I had an aviation safety class there that really hit home, and I've kind of been, having that passion ever since.
I feel like the older I get, the more things just like stick out, like how dangerous that is or whatnot. And so, and then I look at my kids and I'm like, "Ugh."
More responsibilities, yeah, I gotta exactly, exactly.
Before I didn't care. And it's maybe because like my cerebellum wasn't like completely, there yet.
I'm with you. There have been many instances where I look back and say, "What was I thinking?" And it's easy to say it now, but at the time you're like, "What? I don't understand." Now you're like, "Whoa, that was crazy." So.
For sure. So you went to college. What did you go for as your major and your minor there?
Yep. So the my major was in aviation flight operations, and I minored in
Okay.
aviation management. So
Okay.
even back then, I always had kind of a main focus and then a couple side, projects, which was the aviation management aspect of it.
Yeah. And that was a 4 year. That was a 4 year program.
4-year program. Yep.
Did you get your pilot? Like I'm not a pilot, so
Yep. So I went in. I took a discovery flight in high school before I went to college. But I mean, I literally started. My second day of college was zero flight time, actual flight time, and started from scratch. So freshman year, day two, here I am flying an airplane. And I started
nice.
from then, worked my way through to getting most of my CFI done. But the job opportunities at the time after college were good, and I had to hop on, getting into, I'll call it a real flying job, which I mean,
Yeah.
no, no slight on flight instructors. Those the flight instructor professionals out there were very hard workers, but yeah, everybody has their goal on carrying people or cargo or whatever it might be. And I had the opportunity pretty much right after college to get right into it, so I took that opportunity.
Well, I know a couple CFIs, and they have got to be the bravest individuals I know because, man, hopping into an airplane with a kid who can barely drive a car at this point in life, or with somebody, that you don't know, just a random individual, it's got to be nerve wracking. And so I definitely have a lot of respect for them as well. But, I do also know that it doesn't pay well, and so it sucks that it doesn't pay well because you feel like you would get paid pretty well to teach people how to fly. If you're looking out
Absolutely.
from outside in, you're like, oh man, those guys must make a ton of money. But the reality is there's not a lot of money in it, so that's
Yeah, it's
unfortunate.
kind of like the world in general, right? I mean, most teachers definitely should be making more money than they do teaching the youth of America or the professionals of America. So I guess yeah, tag flight instructors in that same pool.
Yeah.
You're right; they're very brave. They know a lot. They have to share a lot of knowledge and work long hours to make a living. And again, those are some hardworking folks.
Yeah, but I think that there's also a trade off there. A lot of the CFIs are just out of school, and so they're building up their time so that they can, get on an insurance plan for a say charter company or they've got to hit a minimum amount of hours to go to something like a 121 or
Right.
a 135 or something like that. So I guess there's a trade off
Exactly.
there for those guys. for those
Absolutely.
individuals doing it. All right, so you got your first real flying job outside of the military. What were you flying? Or sorry, outside of college, what were you flying?
Yeah, so the first job I had was at a small operator called Cape Air out of the Northeast, flying Cessna 402s. So the idea was that originally it's a single pilot airplane, but as a way to, entice lower time pilots like myself at the time to get in was they had a right seat program or a first officer program
Hmm.
where there were certain routes and certain situations like an autopilot being MEL'd or in-op that you required a first officer. So they kind of interjected some youth and some low time pilots in there, kind of built up our hours to get to the point where we earn our captain ratings, and then move up into the left seat. So that was kind of the path that I followed as a young pilot at the time. Like most people, right? You get out of school, you get out of the military, something. You're like, yeah, I'm ready for this. What can they throw at me now? First few weeks of flying there, I realized I didn't know anything, and
Mm.
or not as much as I thought I did. So it was a humbling experience, but it was a great experience. And to this day, I think skill wise, I wouldn't be where I was or where I am now if I hadn't done that. I learned so much. I met some great people, and I learned a lot about myself, along with building up my skill set. So it's a very rewarding experience. I was only there for 2 years because, again, in this industry, you got to keep moving and keep climbing the ladder, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it was a wonderful 2 years.
Yeah. So I mentioned in your introduction, your G650, G550, like all these type ratings for these business jets. Did you ever think like, man, I'm going to be flying business jets one day? While you're
Uh,
in that space, was that kind of like an end goal for you already?
Yeah, so it's funny. I think that was always gonna be the goal, but going back to college real quick, as a senior project, they one of the projects was write out your career from
Hmm.
sitting right here, right now. See what write out your ideal career. And if we call that Plan A, I'm pretty sure I'm on Plan like F right now. You know,
Yeah.
that paper that I wrote, which I believe I still have, is way off of where I am actually right now. But the
Yeah.
conclusion of that was that I was, in fact, flying business jets. I think I had a couple stops in some airlines in there and doing some other things. And again, on paper, it sounded all great, but it's not the trajectory that my career took. However, as I kind of pointed out, each stop that I've taken I've always taken something from those experiences and built them up to where I am now, including all those types. I started again flying Cessna 402s. I made a quick stop flying, actually, my first go around flying Caravans and the first go around flying Pilatuses.
Hmm.
And from there, and maybe you've talked about this before, somebody told me long ago, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that echoes throughout my career. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
was on a charter trip, I'm trying to get into business jets, trying to get to that next step. And sure enough, a buddy of mine that I went to college with, really good friend of mine, was working at this management company, this aviation management and charter company. Said, "Hey, we got a position." I just happened to be in town that day on a charter. I said, "Yeah, let's meet up." And literally, a week later, I was interviewing on a Cessna Citation, my first jet, got the job, and that kind of catapulted me to where I am today. So yeah, so from there, just hard work, earning hours, building hours. Just kind of found my way through that way. And
Yeah.
I have all these types, which I can't even believe that actually hearing you read them off. Yeah, I've got a few, I guess. So
Just a
something
few.
to be proud of. Yeah.
Just a
So
couple.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So and there are more people with way more than I have, but still, like,
Yeah.
wow, how did that all happen?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Sometimes you forget. I think I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I was reading off all the stuff they've done in their career so far, and they're like, "Holy crap, I did a lot of stuff." Because when you're in it and you're living it, sometimes it's hard to go back and reflect on what you've actually accomplished. I'm really bad about that. A lot of times I feel like, man, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing a lot, and if I sit back and I reflect, like, man, I've got a lot of stuff going on, but the what I've done in the past is freaking amazing. Like, especially for somebody who didn't really have a plan or whatnot. Like, sometimes you got to take just a little bit of time to reflect on your life and find what you can be grateful for, because there's a lot to be grateful for in this life. I
I
think that's
agree, and I
amazing.
think I agree, and I mean honestly, what you said too is I'll call it a problem because that's something I deal with all the time too. I'm so busy either consumed in the now or looking ahead that I mean I kind of tend to forget what I have accomplished and what I should be proud of, what might even be looking behind. So I think it is healthy for anybody, especially young entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs in general, to like, all right, look, yes, I know the goal is here and we're always pushing, but take a second, reflect on what you've done. Usually it's going to surprise people how much they've done and accomplished, and it's something to be proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree. So you mentioned entrepreneurship or before we started getting into the call. So let's talk about what kind of moved you. So you've been flying, you're doing all this stuff, you're getting all these type ratings, you're getting like really probably at a place where you're doing pretty good in BizAv, you know? So what inspired this entrepreneurship that like what inspired that for you? What got that moving for you?
Yeah, so a couple things, and as you said, yeah, I'd already gotten the ball rolling flying. I'd finally gotten into flying full time. I saw the career trajectory, and it was doing well, and I was building time. But I also realized, wow, there's a lot of hard work that has to go into this, and a lot of uncertainty that is there too. So I could be working my tail off trying to build hours, but then all of a sudden, whether it's well, actually, we've seen, in the past, it could be COVID, it could be the economy, it could be anything. All of a sudden, this can come to a screeching halt. And I kind of realized, it might be beneficial to have a backup plan or something else that I can be skillful in on top of the flying part. God forbid, whether it's my health or one of the things that I just mentioned, takes it away from me. So I kind of had I don't want to say a freak out moment, but like, wow, I should be doing something more than just, focusing on this career. And on top of that, I always wanted to have something of my own. I mean, I was, again, going back to the college days, talking to one of my college roommates saying, oh, wouldn't it be great to go into business together or do something for ourselves and have this to look back on and say, wow, we did this. So there was always that fire,
Yeah.
inside to try to do that. So while I was flying, which was hard enough, to deal with that schedule, I decided to go back to school and get my MBA in entrepreneurship.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
and once I started the coursework there, and I was, call it 1 to 2 classes a semester, figuring, oh, I can handle this. On top of flying, on top of social life, on top of, my now wife who was trying to, continue that relationship. It was hard. It was very hard, and it was very time consuming. And, I look back at that even while I was in it and say, wow, this was a good idea at the time. What was I thinking? This is a lot
Yeah.
of work. But I went back and I did it, and especially specialized in entrepreneurship because of that fire that, again, I always had to try to make something of myself and have that goal of, having my name on a company or having success that somehow I've created, and just pushing the boundaries from what's the norm is. And I've always looked at it too, whether it was my career or business goals. Instead of just sitting there and saying, "Hey, somebody should change this," I said, "You know what? Maybe I can do something about this, or maybe I can have a foothold in this side of the industry." And that's kind of where it all started.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's freaking great. I
Yeah.
uh I love the entrepreneur spirit coming out, and I think that there is an idea that it's so easy to just go and do my own thing, and maybe not because a lot of people never do, right? Because it's a scary jump. But coming into the space, if you look at social media and all the I don't know what the word is, the hoopla around being an entrepreneur and how much it's been like brought up, like all these kids in their cars and everybody's got all the money and they're at all the cool clubs and they're at all the fancy resorts all over the world. There is a lot of stress and a lot of growing and a lot of like understanding that, well, not understanding, but not knowing that there is a ton of work on the back end. There's no like set it up and it's going to go make money forever. And so coming out of what you were doing, how did you make the transition? So you got your MBA and you know were you still flying and like started doing your startup, or did you just like I'm done flying? I'm going to go do my startup and that's it.
Yeah, so one of the benefits of being in, I'll call it in the private aviation space, I mean, it's a benefit to me, but it's a detriment to some, is, we have a wildly variable schedule. And sometimes I'm flying a lot and staying busy flying. Last week, in fact, was one of those days, or weeks rather, where we were flying quite a bit, and I was kind
Yeah.
of focused on that. There are some times where I fly once a week, maybe 4 times a month, and I have all this time in my hands. And, again, having that kind of fire inside and thinking about, starting something and then having all this time in my hands, I said, well, I need to capitalize on this. So it was at some point in my career where, let's see, it was going back to, well, yeah, I was flying for a hedge fund, guy in the G5, right? And again, it was kind of go for a few days a week to maybe not flying for a whole week. And I said, I could do something with this time. So why not pull out my degree in MBA and entrepreneurship and put it to work? So that's what I did. So actually, one of my first little ventures, which isn't even listed on there, was, I was still young, I was in my 20s at the time, and up in New Hampshire, where I went to college. After college, there's like a social sports kind of thing, kickball, floor hockey, all those things. I
Yeah.
loved it. I said, well, there's not one right here. So I'm like, why not get it started down here? So I actually called them up and I was like, hey, can I get it started in Connecticut here? And they said, yeah, sure, why not? Why don't you start it up? So I did. And that was kind of my first
Nice.
foray into the whole thing, and it's still going today. I haven't
Awesome.
dealt with it in many years, but yeah, it's again something that I can look back on and say, wow, I was helped start this. So in any case, that's where I started having these ideas, and this was back, let's see, 5, 6 years ago, where hiring in aviation was becoming really prevalent. I said, maybe let's see, I've been through the career progressions myself. I've been on many interviews. I've been on many job applications over time. Maybe I can make a business out of and help people with, job applications and resume writing and interview prep, and offer my kind of experiences with that. And that was really the first company that I started, was Direct2, as a kind of a career advancement platform. And then
Yeah.
from there, I just figured, okay, well, this is document writing, and I've done some document writing for safety manuals and flight manuals and things like that. Why not combine the two and just make it all of that? So that's where the company kind of started off as one and evolved into another, more complete scenario. But yeah, all this time on my hands, I figured, instead of sitting around or spending money, why not do something where I can make money and again put that degree to use? And that's
Yeah.
where Direct2 started.
No, that's awesome. So you took your passion basically. It was like, well, did you think that was a passion of yours at the time, or was it just like, I think I can figure out something to do this for my to kind of better myself.
So a little bit of both. The Yeah, I mean, everything an entrepreneur looks at, the end goal is like, let's try to make something myself, make more. But that wasn't really
For
it
sure.
either. I also saw, there was a gap that kind of existed between whether it was younger, low-time pilots or military trying to transition into the civilian world, where I said, I can actually help offer some expertise. If I can make a
Yeah.
buck doing it, yeah, of course, why not? But I do actually have a true passion in helping people and talking to people and learning their story, and again, trying to help them. In aviation, actually, again, I told the story of my dad being in flying, but that's where it stopped. Was he just did it as a kind of a passion, just a side project. But I had no one in the industry that I knew, and I had to kind of blaze my own trail. I figured, why not help some people that are trying to get in just that little bit extra, and say, look, I can nudge you in the right direction, or I could tell you those little things that I didn't know going, back then, going through it and had to figure out the hard way. Why not just give them a little leg up, and give them some key tips and tricks to maybe, again, set their career in motion, and go forward with that. So that's kind of where that company came from.
Yeah, I think that if you are an entrepreneur, and this comes from one of my mentors as well, it's like if you're an entrepreneur, your goal is not to make money, it is to fulfill a need. If you're able to fulfill a
Right.
need, you're able to make money off of that. And so if
Right.
you saw the need there, like, man, I could have used somebody to help me write my resume while I was coming up or whatnot. Maybe some other people need that. And so you're able to create a product that actually helps people. And if you're going to be helping people and there's a need out there for that to be fixed and you have a solution for that, that's where you hop in and take advantage of that opportunity. And yes, you do, as an entrepreneur, nobody wants to be broke, you know,
Right.
that's, number one goal is feed my family and, hopefully
Right.
provide a nice house for myself, and all this other stuff. But, deep down in most entrepreneurs, um, drive is a serious need to fulfill a problem or fix a problem. And if you can make your business, so if your business idea, mission, vision surrounds a specific problem that needs fixing, you'll be successful no matter what industry you go into. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And all the conversations that I've had through that business or even the current business, you just realize like, oh my gosh, it's like, yeah, just talking to people and learning their story and being able to help them or just have a conversation is kind of fulfilling in itself. I mean, and it does, you don't even have to have made a dollar in it. It's just
Yeah.
having the conversation and meeting people and, having an imprint on their lives or vice versa. I've learned a lot from other people, even, as clients, just learning about myself or learning about their story and how I can best help, moving forward or even myself moving forward. So it's amazing what you can learn from just talking to people.
Yeah. So you talk about your time, being in aviation. You have especially in private aviation, you do have like there is a lot of downtime, and I see a lot of people kind of end up in ruts because of that time. But when you start to get busy doing all the things, right? You start getting busy doing your business. You got family. You've got all this other stuff. How do you manage? I hear a lot. There's a work-life balance that you're looking for outside. But as you jump into entrepreneurship, you realize, man, this is a 25 8 day a week job, And so how do you manage that for yourself? Like, are there any tips there for anybody who's like getting into the biz av entrepreneurship side?
Yeah, and let's just put it on. I'll actually start with a negative, for instance. I mean, right now actually is a tough time. I'm having a tougher time with managing all that because it's a lot. I had a tough week last week flying, so my main focus was that. I got some other things done ahead of that, which was good, and it set me ahead. But now I feel like I'm back behind again. The last 2 days, honestly, I look through the days, and this is the amount of work that I have to do for the business, the amount of work that I have to do for my quote real job, which is flying, the amount of work that I have to do with the family, the amount of work, around the house. I mean, it adds up and it's hard. The best thing I could say is, and I'm not that great at it, I'm practicing getting better at it, is take a break. Just take a breath. That stuff will be there for you. There's not a rush to get it done, which sometimes, again, I struggle with. I just want it to be done now, just get it done and off my plate.
Yeah.
That's not possible. So I think having a realistic view on what you can and can't do in a certain time period is the start, and then just being able to disconnect occasionally to do those things. And again, I'm probably bad at it right now. I'm trying to get better, but that's my biggest tip is just to take some time away for yourself, especially if you can, just disconnect for a little while.
Yeah. I think the reason I asked this is because this is something that I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with. Because when you have your 9 to 5, when you're off, and you're done and you can go and do whatever you want to do. We just choose to do more,
Right.
with our time off. Right. So it's
Right.
like, it's a double-edged sword. And so you've got to understand that you're not always going to be hitting on all 6 cylinders or all 8 cylinders in every portion of your life. You're going to be hitting, sometimes you're going to be doing well on your health, and sometimes you're going to be failing in, your business, and sometimes you'll be doing well at your job and you'll be failing in your health, and, or you want to be doing well at home. You're doing awesome at home, but you're struggling on your business side. So like, I think the key for me is to systematize my time and to have time blocks. So like I have 3 businesses, I've got 3 kids, we've got family, and so I've really locked in a system that works for me. I've got to work out every day. That's got to happen. If I don't, then I start to like if I miss one day of the gym, then I miss a month of the gym, like guaranteed. And so I have systems in place for me to succeed personally. And then I block my days. Like, so Wednesday is podcast recording day for me. And that's it. This is the only day that I do podcast, guys, is on Wednesday. If you reach out to me to be on my show, it's going to be a Wednesday recording, just to let you know. But this is the only day that I touch it. I don't touch it any other day. I set it and I forget it because there's nothing else I can do to make it amazing. And then for Higher Vets organization. We do that Tuesday only. I only do that Tuesday, and then JP Arrows the rest of the week, and family and stuff like that. So, that system works for me. But you're never firing, like, you always feel like you're doing great in one side, and the other, like, somewhere else in your life is struggling. And so the work life balance aspect is, I feel like, a fallacy, especially for entrepreneurs. Really, my goal at this point in my life is to be present at what I'm doing. If I'm with my family and I'm with my kids, I'm present with my family and my kids, with me and my wife and my kids. The phone is off. I don't have emails going. I'm not thinking about work. And I'm not great at it. It sucks because you're like, man, what can I do right now to, there's this thing that I used to always think, and I used to say this a lot when I had 3 full-time jobs, and I was starting this entrepreneur thing. Is like, if I'm not making money, what am I doing? And that might be a workaholic idea. I don't know where that stems from in my background or what stemmed that idea for me. But I used to feel like if I wasn't making money and I was awake, then I was wasting time. And my problem was my priorities were all set around making a certain amount of money. And I did not prioritize my family. I did not prioritize my health. I didn't prioritize anything but the dollar. And when I realized that, I was like, man, I've got to fix this, And so I started diving into, a lot of self-development, reaching out to entrepreneurs, getting into groups of leaders that are much better at that type of stuff than I am, and learning as much as I can from them, reading a lot, getting into understanding the work-life balance. And from what I've heard from all of the guys who are ultra successful that I work with there's no work-life balance. It's literally just be present where you are. And, that helps me out quite a bit, because it does suck, man. And I feel for you right there. I feel it's a tough space.
Yeah, exactly. And you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think we all go through that. And I think the people that have gone through it are where they are now because they've not been good at it. And they've realized, again, in that entrepreneurial spirit, there's got to be a solution for this, right? And they found a solution and they fixed it. But I think, we're all there at some point. Some are good at it and are on the other end of it. Some are still learning it. Some haven't gotten there yet. But I think all roads point to the same, where you're going to hit ahead at some point and you have to find a solution. So I think your example of just being present where you are and keeping that time separate and sacred is huge. And I'll even take that away again, amazing what you can learn from talking to people, which is just right here. I'll try to take that mantra that you just said and use that in my own life. So great takeaway.
I appreciate it. That came from my mentors, and that's the importance of putting yourself in networks and starting to get to know people, and meeting people that are much better off than you are at this point, and asking them questions. But I'm just hoping that I can live up to what I have in my head as where we need to be. But it goes back to the beginning of our conversation. You forget sometimes to be grateful for what you have accomplished and where you are doing well in life. And I think that is also something that entrepreneurs struggle with, is just being happy for where they are, looking to the future, but being able to separate that future goal to reality of where you are today, and celebrate the small wins you've created or that you've generated over the time.
Absolutely.
All right. So you had mentioned SMS, safety management. That's something that you're super passionate about. I have a couple friends in that space as well. One of my friends was the Gulfstream Aerospace Director of Safety and Management. And then Tim Wade, who's been on the show before, he works over at Constant Aviation as the Director of Safety and Management Systems. He's also done a bunch of talks for Bombardier Safety Stand Down, and freaking phenomenal guy. I am very passionate about safety as well, because I'm like a helicopter dad. So, and I also don't want to, one of the biggest things for JP Aero, which is an AOG maintenance company, one of my biggest things is I want everybody to come back home tonight with all their fingers and all their toes, So let's talk about safety management systems, how you got involved with that.
Yeah. So again, that one class back in college, very simple.
Yeah.
It's called Aviation Safety. We did some accident investigations. We did, practical applications of how, learning from those kind of helped the industry as a whole move forward. We learned SMS. We learned, crew resource management and how that became, such a necessity in the cockpit, especially as a pilot. But even, anything, whether it's, maintenance, flight attendants, everybody, it's an all-encompassing concept. And again, I just kind of saw that I had a real passion there. I really enjoyed it. I said, well, look, I don't get into this job wanting to be unsafe. Why not, again, be a proponent for it? So there were a few times in my career where, I was applying for the next job, right? Trying to climb that ladder and move up the chain, where people have said, yeah, find something that you want to do and do that as well. Don't just be, a pilot, be more than that, and I said, well, let's see, what do I like, and safety came up. So I started kind of applying myself, in certain regards to safety. So one of which, the first kind of job or secondary responsibility I had was part of ASAP, so Aviation Safety Action Program.
Okay.
For the 135 I was working for. So I was on the committee meeting with the FAA, all of our company representatives, and going over, reports that came in. And I thought it was awesome because here's this program that literally has the FAA, which used to be, oh no, not the FAA, and the company working together for the one goal of making it safer and making these reports, either not happen again or learning from them. And I thought that was a huge step forward in the whole part of it. On top of that, I used that point of view and experience and helped write a couple manuals. I helped establish our own ASAP program from the ground up at one of the corporate flight departments that I was working at, administering that. Again, working with the FAA there, running, the whole program was great. And again, I just think it's hyper important. And then I took that from there, and I worked with an air charter brokerage, and wrote their program as well, and used the safety concepts there to make a better, safer, and more quality product than just some other broker that's pointing the client to a jet, and taking a safety first approach to it rather than just a money first approach to it, like a lot of in the industry have seen. So again, I try to apply it where I can. I try to embrace some of the concepts, but also help those people that might not be as educated on safety embrace them as well. So yeah, it's just something I've been passionate about.
So what are some of the challenges you see when implementing safety management systems?
The biggest thing, and you've probably heard this before, is culture. How is it going to be received? And who is administering it at the top? So I'll give you, for instance, at one of my career stops, and I was in this program, the safety manager probably should not have been the safety manager. And us working underneath that person had a very tough time moving our protocols forward because maybe their view was a little bit skewed. So instead of just the hurdle of selling everybody in the organization on safety, you really just sell that person first, and they were a little unsure of it and not sure why we're doing such and such things, and there's a real roadblock for that. So I kind of lump that under the culture pod, because if people don't have a buy-in or don't know to buy in, then it kind of stops the whole progress from moving forward. So culture is huge.
So my next question was going to be this, but I'm going to change it really quick. So because the question was going to be, how do you create buy-in from the line workers? But in your case, how do you create buy-in from the top line worker or the executive? How did that work?
Right. Yeah. So it's really persistence and kind of persistence in showing proof of concept, right? You almost have to convince them and go about it many different ways. I'll actually go back to our conversation talking about flight instructors, right? So I had mentioned that I had gotten a lot of the way through my flight instructor rating, but didn't finish it because I got called up to call out the airlines, and that's where I went. However, and what I learned from that is something I still kind of hits home today is, people learn in different ways and people have different methods in which they learn. And telling somebody how I learned might not resonate with them and might not, go forward with whatever, you're trying to teach. Instead, you have to kind of find different ways to show or teach somebody that same concept. So I took that same approach with that individual. Okay, here's the proof of why this might work. I felt resistance. It's not happening. Let me try to figure out another way to explain the same thing in a different way to show them, hey, look, this is where we need to go. Oh, that didn't work either. Back to the drawing board. Let's see how I can rephrase this and make it a different, kind of scenario in which they might learn and understand better and show the proof of it. And it's just kind of the persistence in doing that, and saying, look, this is a known benefit, and this is how how safety can benefit our organization. And you don't really say like, hey, you're the roadblock in this, but you almost have to see like, this is, we're holding this back right now, not you, but we, and how can we put this forward, and just keep
Yeah.
persistence on that one goal. And I think that's the key.
Awesome. No, that's a great answer. So as far as safety is concerned, I think that the best places that I have worked had what was called a just culture. And I think that those places were great because if there was a safety problem, anybody could mention it, and we wouldn't reprimand anybody for seeing something unsafe. It was like, okay, what's the problem? How do we solve this so that it doesn't happen again? Every incident we had, so at Gulfstream, it was a just culture. And I loved it because the main part of that culture was if you don't cover something up and you don't lie about it, you're not going to lose your job. Just fess up. But if you do hide it, you're out the door. And I think that helped create a certain culture. There were still people who hid stuff, and those people were walked out immediately. But the ones who immediately came and said, hey, I dinged this up, or this part fell and whatnot, they were welcomed with open arms, and said, okay, thank you for letting us know. And so like creating a culture within your company is very important. And so doing something like creating some type of a just culture with your organization begins to breed trust from the employees, trust from the group, that they can bring up situations that are not correct and get those fixed. How have you seen companies implement a just culture?
Yeah, I think you brought up the best point of all, which is it really is all about trust. I mean, if you don't trust the system or trust the person or trust the process, then it's going to fail. So you have to, again, prove trust. So at a lot of the places that I was, involved in safety, same thing. We had a just culture. And at first it meets a lot of resistance because, again, if you're looking in that kind of old school mentality of, oh, big brother's watching, and if I get in trouble or if I say something, I'm going to get in trouble and I'm going to get fired. Okay, well, just culture is one of those things where, look, all it takes is almost like you almost have to have a sacrificial lamb, right? Somebody to
Yeah.
actually do something, say they did it, show like, hey, look, I did this wrong, I'm sorry, and then see them, not have repercussions from it, and instead of making it instead of having it being a detriment, being a learning experience. Once you have that, I think there's a lot more trust. So sometimes, I mean, look, I've been a proponent of this for a long time. I've made reports that I've look, we're all human, we all mess up. So I'll report myself. I did this, I put it in. Hey, look, John's still working there, weeks later.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, we have a better process in place now because of it. So I think it's like, look, sometimes you have to take the responsibility, especially at the beginning. It could be that you're a leader. It could be someone that shows leadership qualities by, again, saying, look, I believe in the system. I'm gonna be the guinea pig on this one and show everybody else that it's a good process and that just culture can work. Because again, just like you said, I'm a huge just culture fan. It's almost too, I talking about fatherhood and things like that. I use that in our own house. I tell my kids over and over,
Yeah.
look, it's a lot easier just to say you did it wrong. I might
Yeah.
not be happy about it, but it's going to be a lot worse if you lie about it or hide it. And oh, by the way, it's going to be a lot more work on your end.
Yeah.
Just come out with it, learn from it, and I think we'll all be better in the end. So yeah, but gaining that trust is huge. And like I said, I think what I've found is that having somebody that takes responsibility to go forward first usually sets the ball in motion for the rest of the program.
Yeah, awesome. Well, John, I think we're coming up on time. I know you have some meetings to get to, and I'm sure your time is very valuable. So I appreciate you taking some time today to talk to us and bring your perspective to the audience. And guys, that's the show for today. John, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. It's been great.
Absolutely. We'll have to have you back on, man. I'd like to talk to you some more about this type of stuff. So
Anytime, honestly.
yeah,
Anytime.
if you can squeeze some time in, that would be freaking phenomenal. I think that my
Yeah.
audience will definitely enjoy our conversation, and I think you have a lot more to talk about, and as far as entrepreneurship and safety. So would love to have you back on.
Yeah, let's do it again.
For sure. Guys, that's the show. This is Flight Level Zero. Hey, if you do like the show, please like, share, subscribe to the show. If you have any comments, please leave them in whatever platform you listen to. We are on YouTube now. Thank you very much. If you're on here, click that subscribe button. And also, if you are thinking about supporting Flight Level Zero any way, shape, or form, we do have a online store that sells Flight Level Zero swag. We've got hoodies, hats, cups, whatever you want, pens, stuff like that. We'll be putting all that information in the show notes. And we also have a Patreon. If you don't feel like buying something, you just want to give a couple bucks to help us support, that brings more content, gets our content out there, and helps build our brand. So thank you very much. Like I said, this is Flight Level Zero. I'm Joe Peebles, your host. We're out.